My name is Jeff Jason, and this is my office, and this is Woods plywood and epoxy 34-foot Scylla, and this is a Gemini cat. And I answered an ad in Craigslist, and I was enlisted to help refurbish this boat, and this person over here saw the work I was doing on this boat and hired me to paint his deck, and among other things. So I've been very privileged to be able to work on these boats. This Akumi plywood and epoxy boat, I've been wanting to see one of these since 1984. So here goes. Alright, well, installed these stanchions is one thing that I did, and I've painted these decks and the rub rails quite a few times. I installed this trampoline and laced it. I like the lacing pattern a lot. It's very strong, and it holds itself while you're tightening the next section. Let's see. Did some work on the rigging. We tapped and dyed some brackets and whatnot, and one of these dagger boards got rebuilt. It had been munched. Let's see. Like I said, I repainted these decks, and we had to re-epoxy this deck in this cockpit area many times because it was bare epoxy. And so here we go. I repainted this interior. It was initially it was tinted epoxy, and it was a mess. It was a really icky color, and a really icky yellow, and it was dingy and depressing. So what ended up happening, use this part, is I sanded the daylights out of everything, and then caulked and vinyl spackled in where all the cracks were, where it was making a black, lack of light area. And the result is, I think, a rather finished, smooth contours, and nothing really catches your eye, as it were. However, not everything is perfect smooth, because the builders of this boat were more interested in strength and going sailing than having every little rumple and ridge smoothed out. That rumple and ridge smoothing was mostly up to me, and it was a matter of time as to how much time I could spend on it, how much George was going to tolerate me in here sanding forever and ever. So here's the head, and just gives you an idea. So I filled everything with spackle and caulk, and then ended up spraying with primer, and it was necessary to prime. I had 4 different surfaces: bare wood, paint, epoxy, and the spackle and the caulking. I guess that's 5. Anyway, I had a hand in installing this solar panel. I switched out the carb on this outboard. George designed the motor mount and lift, and I got to do the sawing and the drilling. That was exciting. And let's see. Installed these stanchions and rebedded the block tracks, and I lobbied for the bimini and the center console, and had a hand in installing the controls and the steering wheel and the radios and the antennas and the autopilot. George is a person who's refurbished sailboats, and he's lost arm strength, so he needed me as brawn, and hopefully I supplied some brains as well. Here is, we had to rebuild these rudder cassettes and rudders. They were in rough shape. So, moving right along, my last attempt at this presentation was too long. So here's the starboard hull, and it's more of the same. I like the tan. I think it's classy. I would say the tan was my idea, but I think George was leaning in that direction, so we both concurred right away on the choice of tan. I think it's real sharp. So I'm pleased with how everything turned out. The priming was a really, really good idea. I wish I could have sanded again and primed twice. But everything worked out well. So let's see, what else happened with this boat? Anyway, you get the basic idea. A lot of deck painting and whatnot. And so, here is another deck job. This deck job was accomplished in 3-hour intervals between 85% humidity and 95-degree temperatures. I rebedded all these stanchions and all the fixtures, the technique of doing this polyurethane is very interesting, I think, with the rolling and the tipping. It takes some getting used to, but the results are very pleasing. This boat was sad and now it sparkles. It really does. It's funny, especially when it was first painted. It really sparkled. Okay, this door was dull and ravaged and needing a lot of assistance. So I refinished the door, stripped it and refinished it, and then this ceiling of the doghouse in here and around the upper edges is plywood underlayment that you can get at Home Depot and Lowe's, and it's very inexpensive, and I dressed it up with stain and polyurethane, and it lends itself to many creative applications, and it looks expensive, and it's really cheap. It's $8 a sheet, so I'm proud of that creative solution. It came out good, and it hasn't fallen down. And so here's my vinyl. And my process for this vinyl was, you take blue board, it comes accordioned at Lowe's or Home Depot. Well, I guess at Lowe's only. And here's another one of my pine trim treatments. Anyway, comes accordion, 1/4-inch blue board, and then you cut that to the forms that you want, because the stripped out interior is all irregular fiberglass, and you hit the high spots or the low spots and whatever is even and smooth that you can adhere to, and you adhere the blue board to the fiberglass, and then you adhere the vinyl to the blue board. And here's the marvelous 3M adhesive, and those are my barrel roofs. Those were very difficult. Here is my test bed. It's a little bit lumpier than the other areas. This is where all the head scratching was done. And here's another underlayment plywood treatment. And I think that stuff's just amazing. So that's an aft berth, and that's the saloon. Here is the master suite, and it's more of the same. It's the blue board and the vinyl, and I think it's really comes out very well. It's quite pleasant. So let's see. Here's another treatment of oak that I needed to cover up some bare bolts and whatnot, so I faked that in there. And here's the head, and here's the ceiling. And so that is my technique and the result. And it seems like on these Geminis, the boats need deck painting, rebedding, window replacement, and the interior refurbished all at the same time. And this blue board treatment takes care of one of those elements very well, because it's waterproof, it's mold proof, it's soundproof, and it adds flotation. So it works on a lot, it solves a lot of problems, it works on a lot of different levels. So, let's see, what else did I rebedded these shrouds, God, that's it. Painting decks. We're chasing a few leaks in these lockers, and I fixed the gas leak. But mostly this is about the deck and the rebedding and my cute wood treatments, refurbishing various areas, and my vinyl system. So that is Jeff Jason signing off from Largo. Thank you. Basically, this is what I could do for you. Thanks. How long is that?